There's going to be a lot of development this year, and I think being with a team like Mclaren will be very important because you know, us here we are good at developing. I think you'll see that in previous years. Sometimes you get a little bit wrong, but most of the time they're very good. So it's going to be a development race through the season, along with trying to get a handle on the reliability of the car. It's always pretty intense, and there's definitely been no let-up for anyone this winter on getting themselves ready for the first race. I don't think there's any team that's found this winter easy. We really don't know where we will stand at the first race compared to others, but we know that we are heads down, doing the best job we possibly can. Everyone is talking about how the engine is going to sound compared to a V8. You know, it won't sound the same, you know, of course not, but from what I've heard, it still sounds pretty good. It's a real mix in sounds because obviously you have the turbo and what have you, so it's quite an unusual sound. But I like it. I think it sounds good, and you know, it's not important for me to like the sound really. You know, it's important for me to have a car that I can win with. But for the fans, I think it's still going to sound good, and the racing on circuit this year, I think, is going to be better than ever. I really do. I've only seen Kevin a couple of times since obviously he was announced to be a race driver here. But I think he's got his head screwed on. You know, I think he's done very well in lower categories. Obviously, that doesn't mean everything in this sport. But from his test that he's already done in an F1 car last year, the young driver test, he obviously drove very well. He was quick, and from what I've heard, his feedback was very good, and that is something that is key in motorsport at the moment, especially at the pinnacle in Formula One. You know, we can all drive quick. It's the feedback that we give and what's really going to drive the development of this car, especially this year. So I'm looking forward to working with him. But we haven't really spent a lot of time together, but hopefully we'll soon. Obviously, being the more experienced driver, yes, you know, the younger, less experienced driver will learn from you, and as he should, you know, because I've got so much experience in this sport. You know, he also brings something as well. You know, he's coming into a sport, he's fresh, he's not so experienced of the Formula One world, and I was that kid 13 years ago, so, you know, I'm sure I've lost something over the years that would be nice to get back, so I'll be able to see that in Kevin, definitely. But yeah, 22 is a good number for me. It was in 2009, anyway. That's what I won the World Championship with before I came to McLaren. It's also the number that McLaren last won the World Championship with in 2008 with Lewis. So this team under Ron has won multiple World Championships back to the days of Ayrton and Alain and before. So there's so much history of Ron and this team, and you know, he's a true racer, he's a true fighter, and he really has built this team up over the years. So I think it's good for the team, it's good for Ron that he has the chance to really drive this team on again, and I think that everyone here is excited about the Challenger 2014 with Ron in charge.
The first few months have been really good with McLaren. I've done lots of work in the simulator with the engineers, learning about the new car and the new regulations, and trying to improve everything before the first tests. I've come a long way in the winter. The team has been great. They've helped me so much, and they've been so good at helping me out and making me understand everything. The car this year is gonna behave very differently to the old car. It has generally a lot more power than last year, and the downforce is different, so it's very fun to drive. It's going to be a big challenge, and in a way it's good for me because it puts everyone on zero again in terms of driving style, so I think it will be exciting for the fans. The car this year will have so much more power than last year, so it makes it more tricky. You will see more sideways driving, and you will see more mistakes eventually. And it makes it fun. It makes it a challenge more than last year. The cars last year were very much at the top of their development, and they were so good that it's still very difficult to be the fastest, but in a way easier to drive the car. This new car is a bit more of a challenge, I think. Obviously no one has driven in real life, but from the simulator it feels more fun, old school sideways driving. It will feel amazing to drive out of the pit lane for the first time in Harvard. Obviously it's gonna be a shakedown test. It's gonna be the first test, but still just feeling the car and feeling my own car for the first time will be fantastic. The aim for winter testing will be to learn as much as possible about the car, get to know the driving style and get used to the driving style, find the driving style for the new car. It will be very different, so there will be a lot to learn. I personally think that it's a positive thing that the rules have changed so much. For a rookie, it will put everyone a bit more on a level, and everyone will have to learn these new regs. So for me, I'm hoping that it will be very different, because then it means that everyone's got to learn, not only me. I don't really have any particular reason why I picked 20 as my number. It's the number that I had last year when I won the World Series Championship. I also had it in karting when I won the things I won in karting, and I think it's just a number that's followed me a little bit. So I thought if we had to go for one number, then it should be that.
The biggest challenges for us to adapt to the widespread changes on the powertrain aerodynamics this year are going to result in significant operational changes from recent history in Formula One. It's the biggest change that we've seen on the engine, gearbox, and also the chassis as well. Just meeting curfew times, getting through the workload of kitting engines, changing engines, gearboxes. Even if you don't actually have failures, that's going to be a massive task. There's a concept called 30-30, which means 30 wind-on hours a week against 30 teraflops of CFD usage per week, and you have to stay within that limit for all teams. So that's quite a big reduction from last year, and everyone will be looking around how to optimise that to get the best aerodynamic performance development during the season. In-season testing is back, so we're looking at 4 in-season tests, single car on the Tuesday and Wednesday after selected Grand Prix, and you'll use that for tyre development, chassis development, young drivers driving the car, systems, all those sort of things. So it's quite helpful for the teams in terms of mileage. And then the third thing is the driver numbers. So there's a new sequence of driver numbers where the driver actually selects his own number. They're assigned for the career of the career length of the driver, and that's it. Well, at Mclaren at the moment, the preparation is huge. So there's a hive of activity downstairs. We're obviously building cars, checking them and signing them off, shipping them off to test. We've got a test in Spain, and then we've got a double header test in Bahrain before we head off to Melbourne for the first Grand Prix. We're producing chassis. We have to introduce an upgrade kit for the first race. We run a night shift during the tests as well to help the mechanics and technicians just literally cope with the workload. So that's a really big normal part to the start of any year. Made even more so. Even more difficult this year because of the rule changes. The reliability aspects of the car and the performance changes you're going to see during the year are going to be really significant. So if the team that wins the first race doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be still winning by the 5th race, and vice versa. The requirements on a driver are going to shift, so people are going to see the drivers who are intelligent and can cope with the workload while still driving fast and being the champions that they are is going to be a material differentiator. I think we're going to see differences across teams, not just from reliability and performance, but actually the way the driver can cope with it. Well, there's a real buzz around Mclaren at the moment because we want to re-establish ourselves from in 2014. We're very forward-thinking, learning from previous mistakes, but making sure we really get ourselves back at the front. We're here to win. We've got Peter Prodromou coming in, so he's coming in the next year, which is great news. We've just taken on Matt Morris as engineering director, and his input's been fantastic into the team. It's an ongoing drive within McLaren to keep looking for great talent across the board, because that's what we're all about. The other program that's starting significantly now is Honda. We've been working with Honda for quite a few months now, with separate teams to our normal development teams. and that there is so much excitement around that in McLaren, because it's just a fantastic start to what we see as a great era with such a prestigious brand in Formula One. So that's something that's really good for the future.